Are you searching for that perfect home, but you can't find what you're looking for? Well, today, Michelle Castle and I are going to talk about all the stuff you need to know when you're building a home. So be sure and stick around for this episode of Unlocking Doors. So Michelle, when it comes to building a home, I think the most important thing is making sure you understand all the numbers and the financing. There's several different ways to buy a home, or buy a home that's being built, or several ways to have your own home built and do it yourself. So let's start with building from like a track home builder or a spec home builder, somebody who's going to build the property.
That's the easiest way to get new home.
Right, somebody who's going to build the property, they already own the land, and they're going to build it for you. What does that process look like on the financing side?
So from that, if you're buying a home that a builder's building for you, and you're picking from their floor plan in their neighborhood, you get to make some choices, but basically, I mean, you're building what they have available.
Right.
It's just a purchase loan in that case.
Okay.
So that keeps it super simple. Minimum down payment, if that's what you choose to do. I mean, as little as 3% down if you did a conventional loan with the 3% down, or 3.5% on FHA, or 0 on USDA or VA.
Yeah.
So that does not change, and that's the easiest way to buy new construction. What's also great about that is a lot of the builders are giving incentives to help you get into the home that covers your upfront cost.
Right.
So so that's the easiest way.
Okay.
Okay, the con to that is that you don't get to pick location.
Right.
And you don't get to create your own floor plan. And so a lot of people choose to build their own.
Right.
And that's another conversation.
So that is what I would consider building a custom home. And a lot of times you have to purchase the land or have already owned it. And then from there, I mean, in which buying land, you're usually looking at 15 to 20%, maybe 25% down.
Right.
And then you get a construction loan, and you're taking that loan out in your own personal name, right?
Right. Yeah, so if you buy the land and giving yourself a little bit of time to create a plan for purchasing, for building, then you come back later and pay off the land loan and get a construction loan after you've made all those decisions.
Right.
So you still only have one loan, and now this includes the land and the new house. So you're going to have 20%, you're going to need, 10 to 20% down payment of the total project cost.
Right.
Okay? So while that house is being built, you're going to be paying on that construction loan. Whereas if you had a builder build a house for you, you're not paying on it until it's complete.
Yeah.
So you would pay on that construction loan as the house is being built. The bummer part is you're also probably paying where you're living right now.
Right.
Now, we at Guild have a loan program. It's a one-time close, so you're only doing the loan one time, and you don't always have to make that interest payment. It's one thing that makes us just a little bit different than going to the bank and getting a construction loan. And then you've got, you can wait to sell your house because you're not having to make two payments.
Right.
The timing part of while you're building a house, where you're going to live and what's that going to cost while you're paying for the construction loan too, is why a lot of people choose to just buy a house that's being built, that they just pick from.
Yeah.
So both are options. One gives you more flexibility than the other in terms of making choices where you want to be, but the other one gives you more flexibility as far as affordability while you're building. So let's just talk about the financing part of it. Like, what do you need to qualify for a construction loan versus buying a home from a builder?
Okay, so are there different qualifications from like a credit score standpoint? Like if you're going to buy a spec home from the builder versus building custom, are there different qualifications for the buyer? What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's going to be more required of you and from you if you're building a custom home than there would be if you were just purchasing a builder's home.
Okay.
Because the bank is trusting you and the builder with their money, that you're going to be able to make the payments on the construction loan and that you're going to use the money as intended. So there's a lot of trust that the builder has to have with you, and they have strict requirements in terms of debt to income, credit scores, credit worthiness, stability, all of those things that makes them feel comfortable loaning you that money and trusting you're going to build a house and complete the house with it.
Gotcha. And this is a question that just popped in my mind whenever you mentioned that the bank is also loaning this money it's going to the builder. I mean, it goes to you and then you pay the builder, but what kind of, I guess, qualifying criteria do lenders have for builders?
For the builders. Yeah, so they want experience.
Yeah.
You know, your uncle who used to build houses 20 years ago, building a house for you so you can save money, typically is not going to give the bank the warm fuzzies and then just write you a check and say, here, take this money. We trust your uncle that has 20 years or experience 20 years ago.
Right.
So they will, though they're going to research the builder, make sure the builder pays his bills, because if you give the builder money and he doesn't pay the subs, now all of a sudden you got a lien placed on the property from the subs that affects the bank and you as the homeowner.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of research and vetting that they're going to do, the bank's going to do before they give the money to you to give to the builder.
Yeah, absolutely. And just
as they should.
Yeah, as the bank should, but definitely as the buyer or new homeowner should. If you're going to be using a custom builder, make sure you have references of people who have had good experiences. Maybe make a social media post in like a local Facebook group or something and ask, hey, has anybody worked with so-and-so? Because if there's any dirt out there on a bad builder, it's going to be brought to light. And you want to find that stuff out on the front end. At the same time, talk to your lender, talk to your realtor, talk to somebody you trust, and ask them like, hey, if you were building, who would you use?
Right.
I make recommendations for local builders all the time.
Me too.
And I do it with confidence because I know they do a great job.
Right.
I know they stand by their work and they're going to do what's right by the client. So.
And for me, that reference, I mean, I deal with the tail end of the transaction. That's when everybody is frustrated and ready to move in, and all of a sudden there's some last minute expenses they weren't expecting, and now they got to write a check because they've used up all their construction money, or they've had delays, their house is sold, they have nowhere where to live because the new house didn't get finished on time. Those are the stories you and I know about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it gives us the ability to say, okay, hang on, who's never put our customers ever in that position,
right? And
who has? Because reputation is everything.
It is, yeah, it is. Now, there's a couple things. Even if you're building a home, I think it's great to work with a realtor, and it's good to have somebody who represents you and knows what to look out for with these builders, and who can recommend like, hey, at this point, we may want to check on X, Y, Z. Where are we at in the construction process? And so there's a lot of stuff that we want to make sure because this is a 6, 8, 10, sometimes a year long process. And it can, you don't want to just check in whenever you are giving them the money, and you don't want to just wait until it's supposed to be closing time, because that's when issues pop up.
Right.
And that's why I like to be involved in the process. I'll stop by, if they're buying from a builder who's building a spec home, I'll stop by and check on the progress. I'll check in weekly with the sales rep, with the actual construction manager, and with the lender, and just make sure everything's still looking good. So. And
we're going to stay in touch, because the last thing we want someone to do is make a job change or go and purchase a vehicle and now they don't qualify after the house was built.
Yeah.
So we're going to be staying in touch too, just to make sure that there's not anything that would keep them from being able to get the loan at the end.
Yeah.
So it's all about communication and relationships.
For sure.
And working with professionals.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just like she said, working with professionals, it will save you a lot of headache, a lot of hassle, and a lot of money. So if you were thinking about building, be sure and reach out to Michelle about the financing aspect, and be sure and reach out to me if you need help finding a place to buy or some land to build on. So thanks for checking out this episode of Unlocking Doors. We'll catch you on the next one.